Okay, so good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Good morning,
Okay.
Miss Laurel.
And good morning to Miss Laurel Archer. This is our 12th meeting of Cross-Cultural Understanding class, and our topic for today is work values in the United States. And our guest speaker for this evening is the lovely one, Miss Laurel Archer from North Carolina, United States. Thank you for coming, Miss Archer. I think you can start your presentation. Do you
Wow.
Do you need to share something on your?
Yes, I
Okay.
could. That would be great.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you can start.
Okay, great. Let me go back to here, share screen. All right, here it is. This is not something I wrote, but I believe that this is true. This is from the University of Portland, which is in Oregon. And it is for a university for foreign students coming in. So they learn what to do when they come here or what our values are. So would it be okay for me to read this and talk about it? Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
All right. And since it's here, then you guys can read it with me. If you don't understand everything, the words are there. Or you can ask me a question about a word if you don't understand it, okay? Just put your hand up or something. All right. So American values and assumptions. Living in a foreign country and adjusting to a new culture can be a very rewarding experience, but it can also be difficult if you don't understand the values and assumptions of the society. Values are ideas about what is right and wrong, desirable and undesirable, normal and abnormal, proper and improper. Assumptions, as the term used here, are the unquestioned standards about people, life, and the way things are. Okay? People who grew up with a particular culture share certain values and assumptions. You grow up in a certain place and you do what other people do in your culture, right? But if you go somewhere else, then someone else may have a different value or assumption, and you have to get used to that. They also agree mostly with each other's assumptions about human nature and social relationships. The values and assumptions of a culture shape the way people act. To help you adjust, we have compiled a brief explanation of why US Americans behave the way they do. So he wrote this book called American Ways, A Guide for Foreigners, and his name is Gary Althen. All right, so the first value that we hold dear is individualism. The most important thing to understand about US Americans is probably their devotion to individualism. They have been trained from early in their lives to consider themselves separate individuals who are responsible for their own situations in life and their own destinies. They have not been trained to see themselves as a member of a close-knit, tightly interdependent family, religious group, tribe, nation, or other group. And if we want to talk about this for a second, we can. If you have a question to ask me, you can unmute yourself and ask it. But I don't know of any other country that's very independent like the US is. And so when we grow up, we move away from our families, our parents. When we are in school, we are taught to think for ourselves, think outside the box, think, you know, my way, you know, having it your way at McDonald's or Burger King or something like that. It's very important for us to have individual choices, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, we are founded on the fact that we left one country and came to another. And we made this country our own. And we've only been in existence like less than 300 years. And yet our ethic, our individual work ethic, and our being independent ethic is so strong that we are one of the major countries in the world now. And so it's important for us to be individuals. and not necessarily just part of a family. I mean, family is important to us, but it's not the top thing. Any questions?
Okay, I think later we have question and answer session after you do the presentation.
If there's anything in the chat,
Okay.
Happy, you can tell me what
Yeah.
it is and we can talk about it. Let's do it that way.
Okay.
All right, so let's go on to equality. So US Americans believe in the idea, as stated in the Declaration of Independence, that all people are created equal. Although they sometimes violate this ideal in their daily lives, particularly in matters of interracial relationships, Americans have a deep faith that in some fundamental way, all people, or at least all US American people, are of equal value, that no one is born superior to anyone else. One person, one vote, they say, conveying the idea that any person's opinion is as valid and worthy of attention as anyone else's opinion. US Americans are generally quite uncomfortable when somebody treats them with obvious deference. They dislike being the subjects of open displays of respect. We don't get bowed to, or oh master, or anything like that, right? In the US, men and women are considered equal under the law. While US Americans often violate the idea in practice, they do generally assume that women and men are equal, deserving the same level of respect. Now, women don't have to walk behind the men. Women don't have to wear head coverings in this culture. You know, there's things like that. Women and men may be different, but they should be treated equally in all professional and social encounters. We did have to fight for the right to vote. And so in the US, there is history behind the men being the top, you know, dog. And then the women, actually, I don't know which one was first, the blacks or the women, but they had to fight for their own justice. And then the women also had to fight for their justice. So we believe that a woman is as good as a man in business, but we both have different qualities. So we have just as strong a work ethic as a man, but maybe we also have the nurturing side, the mothering side. So we have to have the families. So we can't work as hard as a man unless we choose to, you know, and then we don't have kids or don't have families. And that's, you know, not good for society or not good for us to just completely ignore that side to us. I never had any children, and that's okay with me, because I chose that and it wasn't my thing. You know, God didn't provide children for me. And so I'm okay with that. It's not, a lot of people ask me, why don't you have children? I'm like, because it just didn't happen, you know? And it's okay. It's not like I was from birth, you have to get married, you have to have children. That's not what my path was. My sister did it and she loves her children and they're wonderful, but I didn't do it, and that's okay. So women and men have similar opportunities, but not everybody takes those opportunities. I don't think personally women should be in war, like soldiers. That's not my personal opinion. It's okay if they are, but that's not what I think is the top priority for a woman. You know, if they have to, or if they want to, or they come from a military family and that's the value they take on and they want to do it, that's great. But for me, there's nobody in my family in the military, so that wasn't a big value for us. There is also no reason for a woman to do hard labor, like a job where they're digging ditches, or they can if they want to. They can be a police woman if they want to. They can do anything they want to. But I say the woman should, you know, do what is important to her. And so, but she can choose. That's the good thing. She doesn't have to be a nurse or a teacher, you know, something soft. She can be something else if she wants to be, but she can choose. That's the thing. This is not to say that US Americans make no distinction among themselves as a result of such factors as gender, age, wealth, or social position. They do, but the distinctions are acknowledged in subtle ways. So tone of voice, order of speaking, choice of words, seating arrangements such as the means by which US Americans acknowledge status differences among themselves. So I definitely think there's importance in being respectful and being, paying respect to elders. Like if somebody in one of my groups on WhatsApp, calls me dear, it's okay. I understand that's your culture. Or if they call me some other name that's not as respectful, I don't like that. In a classroom, if the students don't pay attention to me when I was teaching a few years ago, they need to respect me as the teacher and sit down in their seats, and they don't have to totally go crazy on it, but they do need to respect and listen when I talk. And I expect that here in my groups too. But I am also a person with a personality, and I can have fun and I can talk to you like a human being. So it's not like I have you always have to be like, oh, Miss Archer, I'm so respectful of you and I can't say anything wrong. No, I'm not like that. So you just have to understand the difference. And also your parents, you need to be respectful to your parents. You need to, I don't know, in America, we don't bow. We don't, put our heads together. We don't have master. We don't, any of those things anymore. So what we do is we just respect each other with our tone of voice, with our manner of speaking. Let's be pleasant to each other. Let's be civil. Let's enjoy each other's company. Even if your parents, you could be on an equal level if you are older in some ways. Now you always respect them, but you don't have to be like deferential. You don't have to be like, so I think it's interesting as you grow up to your parents are like here and you're down here. And then as you grow up, you kind of sort of get to that equal place eventually. So let's go to the next topic. Any questions before I move on?
No, ma'am. Okay, you can continue. I think they don't have any questions.
Okay.
I think later.
All right, let's move
I
on.
think later.
Good. Informality. Here's where the same kind of thing comes in. Their notion of equality leads US Americans to be quite informal in their behavior and in their relationships with each other. Store clerks and waiters, for example, may introduce themselves by their first names and treat customers in a casual, friendly manner. This informal behavior can puzzle foreign visitors who hold high stations in countries where it is not assumed that all people are created equal. So if you go to a restaurant and she's like, hi, my name is Brittany, may I take your order? That's as formal as she gets. Okay. And she says, oh, would you like this or that? Yes, I would like, that's the formal, more like proper way to say things. You don't really say I want, you say I would like, and that's somewhat respectful. You can say I want, it's not the worst thing in the world. Or you can ask for something, Miss, or Brittany, you can call her. You don't have to say, anything more formal. And you can also, sometimes in a restaurant, you'll be in a restaurant, and this doesn't happen often, but they might sit down at the table with you. So that's how informal we are. But most of the time they're there to help you, and they're very good at what they do. Sometimes you'll have a waiter that's very attentive, and sometimes you'll have one that is not. And they help each other sometimes, the waiters and waitresses. We also call them servers, and then you don't have to distinguish between the man and the woman. All right. People from societies where general behavior is more formal than it is in the United States are struck by the informality of US American speech, dress and postures, idiomatic speech, commonly called slang. We have a lot of that. It is heavily used on most occasions, with formal speech reserved for public offense and fairly formal situations. People of almost any station in life can be seen wearing in public, wearing jeans, sandals, or other informal attire, clothing. People slouch down in chairs or lean on walls or furniture when they talk, rather than sitting or standing up straight. That's a funny observation, but I think that's, somewhat true. The superficial friendliness for which Americans are so well known is related to their informal, egalitarian, equal approach to other people. Hi, they will say to almost anyone. How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you? How are you doing? This behavior does not reflect a special interest in the person addressed, but rather a concern for showing that one is a regular person. So the funny thing about Americans, and I've heard non-native speakers, foreign nationals come here and they say, how you doing to somebody, and they walk right by them. And it's because that's just a greeting. It's not really any indication of wanting to know how you are doing. How is your family? How is your health? We don't really say those things as much. We just say, how you doing? See you later. Unless somebody looks at you in the eye and they stop and they say, how you doing? Then they expect an answer. But if they just say, how you doing? And they walk by, it's just a greeting. So the superficial, okay, I just read that. Anything about informality that you want to ask?
Okay, guys, before Laurel continue the presentation, do you have any questions to ask?
And we can always talk about these at the end. If you don't have any questions, we can move on.
At the end of the presentation, yeah.
All right, we have a few more. The future, change, and progress. US Americans are generally less concerned about history and tradition than are people from older societies. History doesn't matter, many will say. It does, but it's not as important. We haven't been here hundreds and thousands of years. We're a new country in comparison. So our history is important, but it's not everything, right? We look ahead. We have the idea that what happens in the future is within our control, or at least subject to the influences of what we do. We believe that people as individuals are working cooperatively together can change most aspects of the physical and social environment if they decide things to do and a schedule for doing them. The ideal person is punctual. They arrive at the right time, but it's not required. Like if you don't come to the meeting on time, your boss may or may not be upset with you. If we come 5 minutes late, it's not the worst thing in the world. Usually we come on time, but it's not like in some countries where the punctuality is the most important thing. And is considered of other people's time. That's important too, with conversation or other activity that has no visible beneficial outcome. So we don't have like a tradition where you have to spend 20 minutes small talking. Where you have to like say, oh, how is your family? How is your health? How is this? How is that? It's good to do a little bit of that, but not in a formal way. If we want to do business, say somebody, and you come up to them and say, okay, here it is. Okay, thanks, bye. It's not formality. It's just what we decide to do. All right, let's go to the next. Achievement, action, work, and materialism. She's a hard worker, one US American might say in praise of another, or he gets the job done. These expressions convey the typical US American's admiration for a person who approaches a task conscientiously and persistently and has a successful conclusion. More than that, these expressions convey an admiration for achievers, people whose lives are centered around efforts to accomplish some physical, measurable thing. Social psychologists use the term achievement motivation to describe what appears to be the intention underlying US Americans' behavior. I've read a couple of other articles that say the Americans work harder than Europeans or maybe South Americans or other people. We don't have a siesta. We don't have a nap in the middle of the afternoon. We don't have as many days off. We don't have maternity leave as much as other countries. We don't have as many vacations. And so we don't have the same ideals as those countries do. I mean, we don't have like, I think our worth ethic is stronger because of that, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily good. I mean, I think you need to take a vacation. My husband and I go on maybe 1 or 2 vacations a year. And we are going to an island in the next state. Like it's just like a vacation spot for people go. It's not very fancy, but it's nice. And we go for 4 days, 3-4 days. We don't go on long vacations. We can't afford it. We're not that financially secure. But we like to get away, and we do, you know, things on the weekends. You work for 5 days or 6 days sometimes, and then you take the day off, like Sunday is our day of rest, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't like working on Sunday. I don't like working past when I want to. Now, my work ethic is a little different than my husband's because he has a 9-to-5 job. He goes to work and he comes home. And I'm so glad he does. Because for a long time he didn't have a job and I was supporting us financially more. And so I would have to work harder and he was not feeling good, you know, because he wasn't supporting us. But now that he has a job for 3 months, he's been working 9 to 5, 8 to 5, actually, and comes home. And so when he gets home, he's done with work. He leaves it at work. Me, I'm always working because I have my own business. So in the mornings, this is Sunday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, he's sleeping and I'm working. But this is fun work for me because this is getting a message across to people in another country. I love doing this. So I think the biggest thing about Americans is we work when we want to. We decide what kind of work we want. We get a 9-to-5 job if that's what we want, or we start our own business if that's what we want. Again, the individualism. So let's go here. International visitors commonly remark that US Americans work harder than I expected them to. What was once known as the Protestant work ethic, that's the religious aspect, may have lost some of its hold on Americans. There is still a strong belief that the ideal person is a hard worker. A hard worker is one who gets right to work and a task in a way that meets reasonably high standards of quality. Now there's something else I can discuss here real quick. There is a difference between working hard and working smart. And so working hard at something, I have done this before where you're very, very, very hard at work and you need to get something done because there's pressure on you. Like your boss says you must finish this in a certain amount of time and you're not getting paid very much, but it's the only job you can get. So you work hard to do that. I know there's some physical labor involved in a lot of production and making clothings and fabrics and textiles and other things, you know, even computers. My husband works on computers. And that's good, but it's not the only way to work. If you work smart, then you find a way to get your education and then you can get paid more for less work. That's also a great value. So I could teach students online for very little, like if I teach in China or something, or I could teach with my own business and charge 2 or 3 times that and get more value to the students and get more money in my pocket and have to work less. So that's working smarter. So there's a very good reason to work hard, but there's also very good reasons to work smart. All right. Directness and assertiveness. I think there's 2 more and then we're done. Yeah. US Americans generally consider themselves to be frank, open, and direct in their dealings with other people. Let's lay our cards out on the table, they say, or let's stop playing games and get to the point. I don't know if you would say this in a business meeting, but in general, this is the idea. You know, you say hello to each other and maybe a couple of nice words, and then you get started with the meeting. These and many other common phrases convey that Americans' ideas that people should explicitly state what they think and what they want from other people. Now, this also could vary by state, okay? In New York, they're very direct to the point. In southern states, they may be more gentle in their approach and not so, like this. So it depends on where you are and the culture of that city that you're in. US Americans tend to assume that conflicts and disagreements are best settled by means of forthright discussions among the people involved. If I dislike something you are doing, I should tell you about it directly so you will know clearly and from me personally how I feel about it. Bringing other people to mediate a dispute is considered somewhat cowardly, the act of a person without enough courage to speak directly to someone else. Now, there is different scenarios here, okay? Like if I don't like what my boss is doing, I could go up to my boss and say, I don't appreciate this, or I could, talk to other coworkers and say, why is he like this? And they might tell me something. Or I might, ask someone else to help me. There is some mediation that's possible. But most of the time, it's best to confront it if you can, but, and especially with friends, I don't want my friends talking about me to someone else, so why would I talk to someone else about them? So if I have a problem with a person in a personal relationship, I should go directly to them and talk to them nicely and say, why are you doing this? And they will talk to me. And if they don't, then, you can decide to be friends with them or not be friends, right? US Americans will often speak openly and directly to others about things they dislike. They will try to do so in a manner they call constructive, where you don't find it offensive or unacceptable. If they do not speak openly about what is on their minds, they will often convey their reactions in nonverbal ways, without words, but through facial expressions, body positions, and gestures. I agree with that. I think that I think it matters in your family how you were taught. Like if we were taught to be polite to everybody, and that's a good thing. It's not deferential, it's just polite. And I'm a teacher as well. So I'm not going to come out and start swearing at you or be mad at you or hurt you, blah, blah, blah. Because I was taught that in my family, that you should be kind to everyone, right? So if somebody's insulting me, I'm not going to be like, how can you do this to me, and insult them back? That's just not me. Maybe other people will, but I won't. So it kind of depends on that. And also you can take some and then take some and then take some. And then at some point you're like, I can't take it anymore. And then you react. So, I mean, it just depends. US Americans are not taught, as many people in Asian countries are, that they should guard their emotional responses. Their words, their tone of voices, or their facial expressions will usually reveal what they are feeling: angry, unhappy, confused, happy, or content. We like to nip it in the bud or talk to somebody about what we feel. And since there is not that, between a woman and a man, I mean, we are equal in most ways. There's not, oh, I'm going to take abuse from, my husband or from someone else and not say anything. I mean, it does happen. I mean, there are things in this culture that are not perfect. And there are situations that happen where a woman won't speak because she's afraid. Or even a man, once in a while he can get abused too. But I think it's important to note that we are not taught to hide our emotions and be subservient. Okay, that's not how we were taught. And we do show. So there's another thing I can say about this: angry, unhappy, confused. So for example, the French culture, they play games, according to Meg Ryan in this movie, that she's like, when I am unhappy or sad, I show it. When a French person is unhappy or sad, they show the opposite emotion. So I am not like that. I'm American. And So it was kind of a funny way of her saying, yes, this is how we are. Time, last thing. For Americans, time is a resource that can be used well or poorly. Time is money, they say. You only get so much time in this life. You better use it wisely. The future will not be better than the past or the present unless people use their time for constructive, future-oriented tasks. Thus, US Americans admire a well-organized person, one who has a written list of things to do and a schedule for doing them. I agree. I think that if you have a job to do, or if you are hired for a job, you want to know what to do. So if they say do this, this, and that, but they give you the room to figure it out on your own, that's the best of both worlds. I don't want to be told everything to do, but I do want to get a structure, an outline. Can I do this or not? You know, others, especially non-Europeans, do not necessarily share the US American attitude towards time. They are more likely to think of time as something that is simply there around them, not something they can use. One of the more difficult things many foreign business people and students must adjust to in the United States is the notion that time must be saved whenever possible and used wisely every day. In their efforts to use their time wisely, foreign visitors sometimes see US Americans as robots, inhuman creatures who are so tied to their clocks and their schedules that they cannot participate in or enjoy the human interactions that are the truly important things in life. They are like little machines running around, one foreign visitor said. Although this is a general overview of US American values and assumptions, it can be a helpful tool in understanding life in the US. Okay, I have given you a lot to think about. So what would you like to share with me? I can stop the share if you guys want, and you can talk to me directly.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Miss Arthur, for your explanation. Very informative and also very interesting as well. Well, I think I'd like to show you the comparison between Americans and Indonesian in terms of work values. Okay, can I, Miss Arthur? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Stella. Maybe later you can, what is it? You can clarify whether it is true or not, or maybe that it is really something. There are some similarity or difference between our culture. Okay, wait. Okay, where is it? Okay, yes. Okay. These comparisons, I made this comparison.
Okay.
I made this comparison between, because I know my own culture, Indonesian, and from
Yes,
American
and
and
that's good for
European,
me to see it.
yeah. And and then I wrote from Levin and Adelman under the title Beyond Language. Okay, so I made this comparison for work values, for motivation to work. American Europeans actually to earn living for men and women, but in Indonesia, work is obligation for men and it is optional for women. Working moms are allowed to help husbands earn a living as long as they don't neglect their duty as wife and as mother. And also for Americans, working is to get prestige. A lawyer has more prestige than other occupation. While in Indonesia, whatever the occupation, the more money they earn, the more prestige they get. Okay, what do you think about this, Miss Arthur?
I believe that women can also stay home and be a mom.
Yeah.
So you can help your husband by raising his children. And my sister basically did that. She stayed home and she didn't work a lot. She worked some, but she worked in hours that her children didn't need her. So, you know, she worked part-time in her children's school with the teacher, or she worked with, you know, older people later on when her kids were more grown up. So I don't think it's just for men to work, for men to work and women to work as well. I think you could say that Americans, many Americans stay home, and many American women stay home with their children, depending on what their situation is. So, and I know that traditionally, the woman is stays home with the children and the man earns a living, especially as 50 years ago, 40
Yeah.
years ago, women didn't work. They didn't work. They stayed home, and they they were
raised their
expected to
children.
keep the house, to serve dinner for their husband, to iron and take care of the clothing and do everything like a wonderful housewife.
Mhm.
And then women started becoming more, maybe after the war that we had here, there was more of a need for women to work outside the house. The men were at war, so the women needed to work to support, or maybe they just got more incentive to work. There was no reason that every single woman should stay home. Some women can get out and work. So it's almost like a freedom to choose what you want. You don't have to stay home and take care of your kids. You can go out and work. That's their choice. So if you want to say some women stay home and take care of the kids, that's true.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
true.
Okay.
And I don't think that every job is prestige.
Oh,
I mean, my job is not prestige. I mean, I feel good about working with people, and maybe I have prestige because I'm a teacher, but I don't have any desire to be a lawyer.
mhm.
Although a lawyer does have more prestige, I don't think that's the reason for everybody to work.
Okay.
Now, I agree that everybody should work at something that they can work at.
Mhm,
If
mhm.
I want to go to school as a lawyer or a doctor, of course, those are more prestigious, but
Mhm.
not everybody does.
Okay.
And it is true that whatever the occupation, the more money they earn, the more prestige they get.
Uh-huh.
So, both things are true for me as well.
Okay. So in United States, a lawyer indeed has more prestige than other occupation. All right.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
But it doesn't
And
mean that's the only job there is.
yeah, I see. Okay. Okay, and for work ethic, Americans usually work hard in order to become successful, but in Indonesian, usually success depends on the relationship and social circle. So I think some people are not working hard enough, but they get successful because they have any relation or social cycle because of their relation and social cycle. And the outcome is for American, the outcome is materialism, for example, for wealth and possession. While in Indonesia position, the higher your position, the more you can earn money. This is what I can say about Indonesia and America. Is it true?
Yes and no.
All right.
So yes, you need to work hard in order to become successful, but it helps if you're with a family that already has success.
Okay.
So if you are like, I don't want to use Donald Trump, but he's a great example of somebody that grew up, and we say, with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Mhm.
So you have the family history of making money. You grow up with these rich ideas, of how to be successful. And not all of it is great. I mean, I think that you could be somebody who doesn't do everything ethically because your family doesn't do everything ethically. So maybe you have some ways of staying rich that other people don't have that opportunity. Now, there's a difference between the law being legal with it and just in general. So if you can find a legal way to make money, you should, and if you don't have that legal way, don't do it illegally. That's the important thing. But the social circle that you're in is important here too.
Oh,
So if I live in a very low income family, I'm probably going to just hang out with my people that I know. Now, if I don't know anybody that's rich, it's going to be really hard for me to get rich.
mhm.
But if I hang out with people that are rich, then I will learn what they do. There's very good examples. I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about all this because I know we don't have a lot of time. But have you ever seen the movie The Pursuit of Happiness
Yeah, I see. Okay.
with Will
I
Smith?
Will Smith and Jaden Smith. Will Smith and
Yes.
Jaden Smith.
So that's a good example of somebody who grew up in a very low income family and had very, very hard beginnings, but he worked hard enough to get what he got.
Mhm.
And it was very hard for him to do, but he did it. That doesn't happen as often, but it is an example of what could happen.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, now about the dream jobs. The dream jobs of young Americans are lawyers, company directors, and managers. While Indonesian young people of Indonesian, the dream jobs of young people of Indonesians, they want to be doctors, teachers, and civil servants. That's the most favorite, the civil servant.
It depends on what your dream is.
Okay,
I mean, I think our people also become doctors, teachers, and civil servants, but we don't call them civil servants here.
so what is it?
We don't, we call them, well, doctors, teachers, and I don't know. I think of a civil servant as somebody that works in the government.
Yeah, yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
the
we have a
civil
lot
servant.
of government workers here.
Government
We
workers.
do.
All right.
But that's not the dream job, in my opinion.
Of
Of course, I might have a different dream job than you know? So, and again, it depends on the family you grow up in. If you grow up in a family of lawyers, good chance you're going to become a lawyer. If you grow up in a family of doctors, you're probably going to become a doctor or a teacher. If I grew up in a family of, my dad was a professor, so I become a teacher because I loved what he did. So, it's not all like that. I think there's some more to it, but yes, I mean, obviously depends on what you want.
Interesting. Okay, to know that working in governments is the dream jobs of many young Indonesian here, young people of Indonesia. Okay, now let's move to relationship between employer and employees, and also between employees. Okay, for rewards, employees who have creativity in United States, okay, and intellectual skills can have the opportunities to progress to the higher position. While in Indonesia, opportunities to climb to the higher position depends on their relation with the employees again.
Yes,
Depends on the
I agree with that more because I know in some cultures, probably yours, the only way you can succeed in a higher position is if you know somebody in the company. In the US, it's not that much that way. I mean, we call it networking. If you know somebody, they can give you a good word and you can get into a higher position, but you don't have to be born to that.
Okay, now for about work time, Americans are workaholic. They have a little time for leisure. And for Indonesian people, some are hardworking, but some have more leisure time. But still, some of them are more successful than the hardworking people. Okay, and then for our work hours, I think in United States it's 5 days for work hours, around 10 to 12 hours each day. While in Indonesia it's 5 or 6 days. We sometimes some of us work from Monday until Saturday and only have 1 day holiday on Sunday. And the maximum working hours is 8 hours each day. Okay.
Is that a legal thing? Like they won't allow you to work more?
I don't know exactly actually, but it is approximately that they work 8 hours each day for some laborers here who works in the company 8 hours.
I would definitely say that we do work 5 days a week. If you are in a regular company, corporate job, government job, teaching, things like that, you work 5 days a week during business hours, which are 9 to 5, and that's 8 hours. So they don't work 10 to 12 hours. They only work, the general population works 8 hours a day. Okay, not 10 to 12. So you could fix that.
Okay.
But the other professions like a nurse or a doctor, they could work 12-hour shifts. A fireman can work a 12-hour shift. If you're working a double shift, sometimes you work 12 hours, but that's less common.
So normally
And then some
8
people
hours.
work less hours than that.
Okay, right. Okay. So normally
So it's
only
not
8 hours.
just, yeah, some people work 8 hours or less.
Okay, or less than 8 hours. Less than 8 hours.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I work less than 8 hours a day. I just choose which hours I want to work.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then about the leisure time. When Americans have leisure time, they prefer to go home and rest than spending their leisure time by socializing to others. Well, for Indonesian people, when they have leisure time, they spend their leisure time with friends or colleagues in a cafe or street vendors. Socializing with others is as important as their work. Okay.
Can you scroll up a little bit? I can't see this
Okay.
part.
Sorry, I think I can. So, okay, how about this? Okay.
That's better. That's fine. You don't have to make it so big.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, this one.
And then move it over a little bit.
Oops.
Great. Yeah, so I think that we don't spend as much time with our work friends. We spend more time with our family or our friends outside of work. I know that in like Japanese culture, you go to your work and then you go spend time with your work friends in a cafe or hanging out or whatever. So it depends on the person. Again, it's not a general, everybody does this. It's whatever you choose to do. But in general, you go home, you spend the time with your family or your friends rather than your work colleagues. Now, my husband actually has a work colleague that he hangs out with once in a while, which is unusual. But, you know, he doesn't usually spend time with him. And socializing is as important as work, but not, I mean, you have to make a living first and then you socialize.
Okay, I see. Okay, I think that's all about the comparison between work values in Americans and in Indonesia. Okay, in United States and Indonesia. Sorry. Oops. Okay, now we move to the question and answer session from the students. Okay. Okay, maybe we start from. Okay, where should I start? I should call them one by one. Okay, Dita, are you here? Dita.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is your question, Dita?
Wait, ma'am. Yes.
What is your question?
Yeah.
My question is, how can a foreigner get a job in America?
It's okay. Can a foreigner get a job in America and how?
Right. So yes, you can get a job in America, but you have to find a way. So there's organizations in your country that say, if you want to work in America, work for us, or you can maybe go to school here. You know, there's also foreign exchange programs. There are, so it's either a work visa, a student visa, or a foreign exchange program, which is also student, you know, led. You can also come here as a volunteer for some reason. If you have a company that you know that you could volunteer through, those are the ways. And, or you can marry an American man. But you know, that you have to find a way. I can't help you. Other people just can't help you and say, oh, sure, invite me here and I can come. No, it doesn't work that way. I tell people I don't help you get to America. I just teach you English, but I can tell you about ways to do it. And then maybe you could find a way to do that.
All right. Dita, do you still have another questions? Dita? Okay. Okay, I think it's enough for Dita. Okay, next question from Istiqomah Rohma. Is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what is your question, Is?
I want to ask, how much does a work permit in US, and is it hard for a foreigner to get a job in there?
Okay, similar questions, I think, yeah, about the about.
I don't know how much the work visa is, and I don't know how hard it is because I don't live in Indonesia.
Yeah. Okay, so you can compare between the foreigner worker and the American worker. Okay, so I think we go to another questions. Okay, Nanda.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Nanda, what is your question, Nanda?
Okay, wait. Hello, Miss. I want to ask, is it true if the work culture in US is individualist? If true or true, not give the reason. Thank you.
Okay.
If work culture is individual in the US, then what is the
Yeah,
second part?
okay. And what is the reason? Okay, for individual work. So American like to work individualism that rather than working in a group, I think, in a team. Is it true?
Well, again, individualism is because you get to choose what you want to do. You don't have to choose to be a doctor or a lawyer. You can choose to be whatever you want. So we grow up with the idea that we can choose to be a wife and mother if we want to, or we can choose to work, or we can do both. So that's where the individual comes in, is that you can choose to do what you want to do. You don't have to do what your family does, although a lot of times people do. You can choose to do what your family does, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. You can choose to do something else. And so that's the individual aspect.
Okay, right. Okay, next questions, I think, from Ula. Okay, Nurul Nikmatul Ula.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the question, Ula?
Hello, Miss. I want to ask, can high school graduates in America go straight to work?
Okay, go straight.
Yes.
Okay, go straight to work. Okay.
But
So
it depends on your connections and what you did in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Ula. The answer is although you only high school graduated, you can still work in the United States, but depends
That is
on
the general. It's the general idea
okay.
that when you, well, I should say it this way. If you graduate from high school and you go into a job, chances are you're not going to earn a lot of money, but you will be employed. You can work at a fast food place. You can work at a, retail store. You can work at maybe construction if you're a guy, or work someplace where you don't need a lot of education. You just need a high school diploma. But if you want a good job, what we call a white collar job, where you're working in an office or working with, as a teacher or something, you need more education. So there's a place for both.
Okay. Do you still have another question, Ula? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss.
You're welcome.
Okay, now, FK, are you there? Sarah Habibah.
Okay, hello Miss Laurel. I wanna ask, usually what kind of work values are often accepted by companies or schools? Thank you.
What kind of work values are accepted or that they're expected? That you work hard for the company. Is that right?
Yes.
You work hard for the company. You do what they ask you to do. So if you're hired for a certain position, you need to know what that position is. And you need to do what they say. So if they say you need to work 8 hours a day, you work 8 hours a day. If they say 10 or 12, like you have a long shift, then you have to be prepared for that. Sometimes they will take an overnight position. So you have to work third shift. And so you have to go into work at 8 o'clock at night and stay there until 8 o'clock in the morning. If that's what you choose to do, then you have to do it. And you can't fall asleep and you can't, all these things. So yes, they expect you to do what the job is. That if you need to learn something, learn it on the job. They'll give you training and then you have to do it. But they also expect you to know something before you come in. Now, depending on the position, how high in status it is, If it's a low status or if it's an entry level, we call it entry level. We don't call it low status. We call it entry level position. That means you don't know a lot and you learn on the job. You learn how to operate a cash register, how to put away clothes, how to, deal with customers, how to clean up, if you're in a retail position. That's what you learn on the job. This is your first job, you learn. Just like in school, when you're in kindergarten, you learn how to speak and write and things like that. But if you're in a higher job and you have experience, then they expect you to use that experience in the next job.
Okay.
Thank you. It's clear.
Mhm.
Okay, thank
Good.
you, Efka. And then Wafa. Wafia, are you here? Okay. Wafa. Wafa, please unmute yourself and ask the questions. Okay, Wafa is not responding. Okay, we go to the other student. Wafa. Okay, she's not responding.
She
Okay.
unmuted. She unmuted.
Oh yeah. Okay. Wafi. Okay. What is your question, Wafa? Okay, maybe connection problem. Maybe Wafa.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. What is your question, Wafa?
Okay, Miss Laura.
Okay.
Miss
Yeah.
Laurel, I want to ask, is it hard to get a job in America?
Is it okay? Do you think that it is hard to get a job in United States?
Yeah, how do you measure that? I guess you just have to say, I've worked with a lot of people that are trying to find jobs. I help people with resumes. And, that's where the CV, where you try and, show people what experience you have. I think the economy these days is a little bit, I don't know, better, because so many people want to go back to work, but it's changed since COVID.
Yeah.
So, 2 years ago, nobody was really working in an office. Everybody was kind of adjusting to working at home. So a lot of people now are looking for work at home jobs and other things like that. And we do a lot of that these days, more than we used to. But they say the job market right now is really good because many people are hiring. And there was a period of time last year where you couldn't get enough people to work. The restaurants were looking for workers and they couldn't hire enough people. So they would close the restaurant because there was no workers.
Oh, okay.
So now it is, there's more workers that are coming back, but so it's easier to get a job. And you'll see now hiring signs out in, retail shops and restaurants and things like that. So if you want a job, you can find one, but you have to just choose whatever's available. And you have to decide if you want to get a better job, then you need more education. And those hard jobs are a little harder to get.
Okay. Wafa, is it enough? Or do you still have another question? Okay.
No, Miss.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss Laura.
Okay.
Laurel.
Okay, now Nadia. Is Nadia here? Nadia Sabella.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is your question, Nadia?
Okay, ma'am. Wait.
Nadia Sabella.
Are you there, Nadia?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to ask to you, Miss, how many hours a day does the average American work?
That's
What
really hard to
hours?
say
Okay.
because like I was telling you guys before, it depends on the job that you have. So you could have a job where you work a couple or 3, 4 hours a day, and you could have a job where you work 12 hours a day. It's all up to your choice. So, but the average American in a corporate job works 8 hours a day.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Nadia, is it? So normally
Yes,
it is 8
thank
hours.
you.
Okay, thank you, Nadia. Now Fitri.
Thank you, Miss.
You're welcome.
Fitri Hidayati. Your turn, Fitri.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your question?
Okay, Fitri, what is your question?
I want to ask, what is the fate of unemployment for American, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, about unemployment. Okay, there is any certain rules or what is it?
That's a good question. We haven't talked
Policy,
about that.
policy for unemployment. Yeah.
So it depends on the job that you take. So if you choose to go into a position that is like a retail position, or restaurant or something else, or even a corporate position, it is assumed that you're going to stay there as long as they want you to and as long as you want to. So there's no time limit. It's not like we're going to employ you for 3 months and then you leave. That is also a case when you go to a temporary agency or something. There is you could work there a week, you could work there 3 weeks or a year. It depends on the agency, what they decide. Now, most temporary positions will say a time limit, like, we need you for 6 months, we need you for 3 months, something like that. But in general, when you get a job, you're expected to keep it for as long as you can. In other jobs, like a teacher is hired on for 1 year. She signs a contract for 1 year, and that means school year. So September to May, that was the traditional calendar. Sometimes there's year-round schools where you keep working and you get 3 weeks on, and it's crazy in the US with the calendars with the teachers, because when we started doing these year-round calendars, you have 9 weeks on and 3 weeks off, 9 weeks on and 3 weeks off. And those are called trackouts. That was instituted way after I finished teaching, or I never did, any of those. I always did the traditional calendar. And during the summer, the teacher could work if they wanted to, or they could take the summer off. So in general, when you take a job, it's for length of time that you agree with the employer, or it's just ongoing.
Okay, it's interesting to talk about teachers. So it is only for contract for the teachers usually sign contract for only 1 year. Okay, so what happened when the contract is over? So
Then in March or so, in March, you sign another contract.
Okay, another contract.
And then you sign, it's like a lease for a house. Like we lease our house every year. So we say, okay, in March, we're going to stay another year. And then you stay another year and you stay another year. I personally never stayed at a school more than a year. Okay. I never stayed at a school 2 years, but I am unusual, maybe. A lot of teachers will stay on for many years, or they will move within the school. Like this year they'll teach 3rd grade, the next year they'll teach 5th grade, or whatever, depending on what they want and what the school wants.
Okay. So the contract, it depends on the school policy, or depends on the teacher themselves?
Both. It depends on the school policy and what the teacher wants to do. The teacher gets the contract and the teacher signs it if she wants to. It's generally assumed that she'll stay there. It's not like it's a year and then you leave, but it's just in writing for a year, and then you can continue or decide to move on.
Okay, I'm thinking if I'm a teacher there and I work for a year, I am a teacher for a year there, and then for example, if I'm supposed want to continue or to sign another contract or want to extend my contract, but the school doesn't want me anymore, what should I do?
Then you move on.
And what is the reason? What is the reason if the schools doesn't want to teach any certain teacher? Is there any reason behind it? Or is there something happened?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I can say it from this other side, where I didn't stay at a school for year after year after year after year. I moved around from school to school to school to school because I was looking for something maybe that the school didn't offer, or the students, or maybe there was difficulty with something or another. And so for me, I worked as long as I needed to. And then either they cut my contract or I decided to move on or something like that. So not every teacher is going to stay there year after year after year after year. And it does. It depends on your personal situation. And but I think it's admirable to stay at a school year after year after year. But you'll notice with my business, I have been in business for myself for 12 years. I haven't left that or gone somewhere else or gone to work for someone else and quit my business. It's my work ethic to work for myself harder than I work for anyone else. So.
Okay, interesting. Interesting talking about work ethic there. Okay. Next question, I think Nazia Miladia.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what is your question, Nazia?
My question is, what are the employment rules that have been applied in the American?
Okay. Is there any certain rules for the employer, for the employee? Sorry, employer or
Yes,
employee?
there are rules. Employment rules.
Yes.
Okay. The employment rules, like the other question, is they expect you to do what they ask you to do. They expect you to work the hours they ask you to work, and it might change. And so if you're hired on for one set of hours and then they decide we need you to work other hours, then you at that point can choose, do I want to stay with this company or do I want to leave? Because they changed my rules. They said I could work 8 to 5 and now they want me to work at night, I'm leaving. Right? Or you can, if they just choose it, change it a little bit, you say, okay, fine, I can work on Saturdays. It wasn't originally part of the agreement, but I'll do it. So you choose at that point. Now, if you have a contract, they can't change your hours. So if you sign a contract with a company and that says you work this many hours and they change it, that's not right. So they can't do that. They can do other things to, I don't know, things that are not in the contract, but more often than not, they don't. You know, you choose to come in, you say, okay, I'm working 8 to 5, I'm working at this place, at this desk, at this job, with this boss, and for this pay. So that's what you sign on for. Sometimes they'll choose to do something different, and then you say, okay, yeah, that's in the contract or not. I will leave if it's not right.
Okay. All right. Okay. Next
If
question.
that makes sense.
Next, next question, Latifah. Is Latifah here? Okay, but I don't think ada Latifah here. Okay, Latifah is not here. Levi maybe. Levi. Yeah, Levi, what is your
Yes,
question?
ma'am.
Levi? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Hello,
I
young
wanna
man.
ask.
How are you?
Hi. Nice to meet you.
You too.
All right. I wanna ask, Miss, how important is work in the American value system?
In the what system?
How important is the work values, I think?
How,
Is it? How important are the work values?
Which system?
In
system work value? Yeah.
Fairly?
Working system.
Yes.
Maybe you can repeat your question slightly.
So
Slowly.
yeah, repeat your question,
Repeat your
please, because I didn't
question,
understand.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, repeat your question, Levi. Okay.
How important is work in the American value system? Well, obviously, unless you have a reason not to work, you should work. Okay. If you are disabled in some way, or if you stay home to take care of your children, or if you are born so rich you don't need to work, fine. But everybody else works, and there's no reason not to work. You know, do you want to sit around and watch TV all day? No, you don't. I mean, not when you're older. You know, if you're a teenager, fine, sounds like fun. But if you've ever done that for 2-3 days straight, you're like, I am so bored. You have to work. You know, you have to do something. And if your work is creating something, if you're an inventor or a writer and you don't have regular office hours or pay, fine, but you're still working, you know? And so you choose to define what your work is. But I think work is very important to everyone, to get your mind off of yourself and to contribute to society and to make something of yourself, to have some value in your day. You wake up and you do something.
Okay, do you still have another questions, Fluffy?
No, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, another questions from the other students, maybe. Lisma Eliza. Lisma Eliza is here. Maybe you want to ask any question, Eliza?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. The other students, maybe, do you still have another questions, guys? Or maybe out of the topic, you can ask Miss out of the topic. Okay, out of work values, you can ask about the American culture or whatever it is about American. Maybe the other questions. Okay, but I'm interested about. I'm sorry.
Ifat has a question.
Yeah, if I'm interested. Ifat Supairo. Yeah, okay. Ifat Supairo. Okay, what is your question, Ifat?
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. What is that? On what's that? Wait a minute. I forgot my question. It's talking about when the child have adults and they want to decide to live by her or himself. How
Live.
like, yeah, I mean, like, stay far from independent, far from their family, and
Want to be independent?
yeah, want to independent.
Mhm.
I think is all of the parents is just let them, like, is the culture like when they grown up they will let their child to stay. How about it?
Yes.
Yes.
We are not as family centric as like Latin American cultures or your cultures or maybe Muslim cultures, I'm not sure. But I think it's very much a value of ours to be independent. Now, do I want to get away from my family? Well, it depends on my family. You know, if I don't like my family, I'll move away. But if I like my family, but I find a really, really good job in another state that's far away, I will take it versus staying home because I have to stay with my family. It's not like that here. When I was just out of college, I got a job in a state that was like, I don't know, 10 hours, 20 hours away. And I would come home for Christmas and holidays and things like that. And for the summer or whatever it was, I was teaching. My first year teaching, I got a job in Louisiana and I taught kindergarten and I didn't know anybody. The only people I knew were my roommates who were also teachers. And I didn't know them either. I decided to live with these strangers and live in this strange place where I didn't know anyone. And so you could choose to do that if that's your choice, you know. And I had a week to decide, do I want to move my whole life here? Yes, I do. And I did it. And I'm glad I did it. But it's just like anything else. You have to know that it's okay to do that. You know, if there is a reason to stay home with my family, my mom was sick or my dad was sick and I had to take care of them, fine, I'll stay home. My sister actually took care of my parents when they were older. And so she chose to stay with them rather than working, but she's always been a caretaker. She's always had kids. She never worked. So for her, it wasn't a question of moving away and then moving back home, which I did. I actually moved away from home and then I came back home. So my parents accepted me back in for a year and then I got married and moved on. But you can go home again after you start working, if your family is okay with that, if they're ready for you to come home. But we are not required to stay with our family.
Okay. Sufa, Ipat Spira, do you still have another question?
No, I haven't.
Uh-huh.
Later, maybe.
Later, okay. Okay, maybe I will. Okay, related with Sufa's question, Ipat Spira's question. So in what it's do the what is it? Do the children usually think that, oh, it's time for me to go away from home from my parents, or it's time for me to work away or something, to move from their house or from their parents' house. I think usually in what it's they have some thinking like that.
Okay, so in my situation, I don't know how everybody is, but in my situation, I went away to high school for 2 years. So I was like, what, 15 or 16 years old, and I moved away from home, but I moved to my mother's sister's, it was a family connection. So I moved to the high school where her husband was the principal. And so it was a family connection. I was able to move away from home at like very young, like 15 or 16, and stay there for 2 years and then come home again. So I lived, and I would see them on Christmas and holidays and things like that. And I was in a boarding school. So I was in a school where the school and the living situation was in the same building. So it was protected. And then I came home, and then I went to college, and it was only an hour away from home. So I was living on campus at that college at 18 or 19. And then I came home on the weekends more often because I was closer. I was only an hour away. So in general, I think people leave home at the end of college, or not usually at the end of high school. Usually you stay close to your family after high school. You get a job nearby. Your parents sometimes have to take you to work and take you home unless you have your driver's license, which is usual. You get your driver's license at 16 here. So you can drive yourself to work and home. I didn't get mine till 17, but most people get it at 16. And so you stay home. And then when you go to college, you choose, do I want to stay home in my home area for college? And in-state tuition is a lot better than out-of-state tuition. So if you stay in your home state, it's going to cost you less to go to college. And then if you go out of state to another state, then it's going to cost more. And your parents need to pay for that unless you have a way to pay for that. So that's between a parent and a child to decide, or at that point, a young adult. So if you go out of state because you have a program that you want to pursue and it's not in your state, then you do that if your parents have the money. Or if you want to go to some prestigious place like Harvard or Yale or, something like that, or, then you have that family value that we go to state, we go to Harvard, our whole family does, so they know that expense is coming up and that you're going to move away from home. So that's something that's understood or okay with them. So when do you move away from home? When you're young? I would say after college, usually, if you do. And a lot of people stay. I mean, you don't have to move away from home. You choose to, because of a job or because of school.
Okay. And the parents usually understand about the children decision of, the parents usually allow the children to move out from their homes, and they don't forbid the children. They don't forbid the children by saying, oh, it's not time for you to move on yet because you're still underage or something. It's not okay. Okay.
Yeah. I know some people have never moved away from home. I have a friend that I grew up with, and she never left her home state. She's never lived anywhere else. She's always lived near her family. They bought her a house in the same town so she could live with her. She had children, and she was married and stuff. She lived. And when we're married with children, we usually don't live with our parents. We live somewhere else on our own. So you can live in the same city, but you don't live at your house. You move away from your parents' house into another house, and usually the same city or nearby. When you're a young married couple, unless your husband has a job in another city, and then you have to leave home.
All right. It's very interesting and new insight for us, maybe, about the American culture, especially about the work value and work ethics. Okay, guys, do you still have another questions to ask? Or is it enough for today? FK, do you still have another questions? Okay.
No, it's enough.
Maybe you want to say something to Miss Archer. Okay, anything. Okay, or the other students maybe do you want to say something, or you want to ask about, yeah, about, okay. And what is your husband, Miss Laurel? I mean, what is the profession, the occupation of your husband? What is
He works at a pharmaceutical company now. He's been working there for 3 months, and it's his best job that he's had since we've been married for 7 years. This is the best job he's had. He works there he doesn't work with the pharmaceuticals, the drug, trials or anything like that. He works for the computer department. So it's called the IT hub. And he prepares the laptops that everybody uses. So so everybody uses a computer these days. And so they ask the people in this department, I need this computer or something, and he provides it with his team. So he has a team that he works with. He's not in charge or anything. He just is one of the workers that works there. He and another guy. And then there's some other people that do other things. So there's maybe 5 or 6 people in this department, and his boss is nice. And so he works all day on computers, and that's what he does.
And have you ever been to Indonesia, Miss Archer?
No.
Okay.
No, I have never been there.
Okay. And do you know someone else from Indonesia except us? Maybe you.
I have met other students. There's the girl in my WhatsApp group, or actually I met her somewhere else, maybe in Halo. Her name is Dewey. I know she's from Indonesia. And I've met other people from Indonesia, but I've never met anybody outside of that.
Yeah, okay. Because Indonesian people, most of Indonesian people usually are very excited when we meet foreigners like you and the others foreigners, and we like to say, so we like to say, to ask so many questions if we meet foreigners. So,
Very curious.
Very curious about.
Yes, I'm sure.
And I think that some Americans usually avoid some certain questions. Okay, so what kind of question do you usually that you don't like to be asked about from the non-American
Well,
people?
The question of, children, why don't you have children, or, that kind of thing. I'm like, well, it's not required of us. It's not something that we have to, it's not like my life on earth is a wife and a mother. That's not what I was, that's not my path, I should say. My sister, she had the wife, mother, children thing, and it's wonderful for her. I very much love my nieces, and they're doing great, but that wasn't mine. So it's okay in America not to be a wife and a mother. It's okay to be I can be a wife and not be a mother, or I can choose to be single my whole life if I wanted to. So I mean, it's not the most comfortable path to be single your whole life, but it's okay. You don't have to get married. You don't have to have children. So it's your choice.
Okay. Okay, the other questions, guys. You still have another questions? How about?
And I have 2 cats. I have 2 cats.
Okay, lovers. Okay. Okay. I think Levi also have cats, yeah, as his pet. Is it right, Levi?
Yes,
okay? Levi
true.
is a cat lover.
Yes, cat lover. Aliza too.
Aliza too.
Yes.
I have 2 cats.
How many cats do you have, Levi? Levi, how many cats do you have?
No, I don't have.
You don't have any cats?
He just like cat, but don't have any. Maybe his parents don't allow him to have any pet.
What do you guys have as pets? Cats and dogs like us, or other pets?
My husband have some birds here.
Some fish.
Some what?
Birds.
Birds. Okay. Goldfish. Just kidding.
I have fish.
Oh
You
yeah,
have fish? That's always good to
yeah,
have.
fish.
Good to have fish. I had fish and I had a hamster when I was young. I always grew up with cats. We didn't grow up with dogs. So we yeah, I think it's easier to have a cat than a dog,
Okay.
in
And
my
how?
opinion.
Yeah, okay. And how long have you been teaching, Miss Aja? How long have you been teaching?
I have been teaching for over 30 years.
Oh,
Long,
for
long,
30 years,
long
long
time.
time. Okay, long time.
Here's one of my cats.
Oh, this is
Oh,
cat.
wow, wow, wow. Black
And then
dog.
here's the other one.
Wow.
Cute, cute, cute.
Okay.
Cute.
Yeah.
They're
Can I have?
sisters. Yeah,
Okay, so
you can have.
so as your cat, Levi. So as your cat.
My cat, I on my WhatsApp group, I put my cat on she meowed at me the other day. So I put her on there. I said, hello. And she was meow. And so it was in the window. So sometimes I'll give little tidbits of my life.
Okay, do they have name or what do you call them?
Luna and Leah.
Oh,
Luna like the moon and
Oh,
Leah is
yes.
like my initials.
Yeah, I see.
So yes.
My cat name is Izul.
Okay.
Izul? Your
Yes.
cat? Oh, we call him. How about Alisa? Alisa's cat, what is the name?
Many, mom.
Oh, many. Many. Do you have many names?
Many cats.
Oh, many cats.
Many cats.
Many cats.
5.
5?
5. I had 5. I
Oh,
actually had 5 cats one
wow.
time. It's a lot. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. We're talking about cat. Okay. And how about the other questions, guys? Do you have another questions anymore? So if you don't have any more questions, maybe I will end this meeting. But before that, maybe you can turn on your camera, all of you, so we can take picture with Laurel. Okay. So is it okay for me to call you Laurel
Yeah.
only? Yeah. Not Alisa.
Yes, it's okay. So I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything today
Okay,
about America?
What did you learn from? What
Ma'am.
did you learn for today? Yeah, Rikan. What is it?
Itu kenapa kok rambutnya orang Amerika kebanyakan warna gitu?
Okay, Mas Likan is curious about the American hair. We
American
usually
hair.
have black hair. But why do American have blondie or maybe flat hair and not only black? I think. I think it is about. I don't know.
I am Norwegian.
Mhm.
So my family is blonde, and I can show you a picture.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
This is my family. So my dad had dark hair, my mom had blonde hair, and look at that's
Whoa.
me when I was little. I had very blonde hair.
Oh, blondie, very blondie.
Super
So,
Saiyan.
and that's my sister there.
Oh, so cool. Your father.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a professor and he was very smart. And here's me in high school. So this is just,
Oh, your father is
my hair was a
professor.
little bit darker, but it's always been blonde, and I just bleached it. So now it's blonder than it was before. So some people are blonde, some people are dark haired, and some people have red hair. And a lot of women these days have gray hair.
Yeah,
Because since
gray
COVID, people are like, I'm not going to dye my hair anymore. And so, people are going natural. But, it depends on what you want. You don't have to have dark hair. If I'm blonde, it's my heritage. I'm going to be blonde. So.
Yeah, I see. Okay. And I don't know what to say. Okay, when we get older, when Indonesians get older, our hair become white and white, many more white.
White and gray.
White and gray. Yeah,
White,
and
gray.
How about
silver,
white.
the blondie hair people? It also turns gray or turns white as well.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, maybe someday I'll decide to become, gray haired, but right now I'll stay blonde.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
May I know how old you are, Miss Anja? actually?
How old I am?
Yeah. If I
Uh,
may.
let me say, if I've been teaching for 30 years and I started
Yeah.
around 20, you figure it out.
So you start teaching when you are 20? When you are 20?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And you
And
have been
I've been teaching for 30 years. So I'm in my 50s.
But you look young. But you look young, Alden.
Yeah, I look young.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, but that's good, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And they are still in 20 or 21, something like 21 or 22, yeah, guys, you are all in around 21 or 22, so
21, ma'am.
21, okay,
20, ma'am, 20.
20, okay, still in early 20, so they still have many time, many long, they still have long time to go, yeah, still very young, is to achieve,
So-
maybe to achieve their dreams for their dream jobs, and okay, and the other,
And you can be
the
a
other
wife
thing.
and a mother and work too.
Yeah, I'm a mother.
A lot
and
of times these days you can work at home. You can work, you can create things, you can create something at home, like, handiwork, or, you can teach, or you can do other things and still have children at the same time. So it's not a choice between a wife and mother and work. It's
you can
a
work
choice
at
of what
home.
you want to do. What is the average age of getting married in your country?
Okay, what is the average age? The average age is 25, I think. 25 for the male and 21 for the female, I think. Is it?
21?
But I got
No,
married.
ma'am.
No, okay,
What?
I don't know, because I got married at 27. I don't know. I don't know, maybe I'm
I
too
got
old.
married
Okay.
late too.
I think in general,
In
I
general.
think in general, Indonesians get married at for young
20.
18, 19
Oh,
years
18,
old.
19.
Mhm.
Normally,
Yes.
but it's not normal, right?
After graduate from high school.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, some traditional people still get married at very young age. But for
Nowadays,
Uh-huh.
many young people, many young people get
got
married.
married very young,
Yes.
at a very young age.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very young.
So I'm too old to get married. I was too old when I got married.
I understand that.
Yeah, because
And
I
it's
get married after
okay.
I finished my master degree. So
Yeah. I mean, I did the
I have
same
target.
thing.
Okay, I have target to reach my master degree first and then getting married.
That's what I did. I actually did that. I got my master's degree and then I got married.
Okay,
So, I decided to finish school before, I got married. And so that's how it worked out for me.
I don't know about the other student. Maybe they want to get married immediately after getting graduated from the undergraduate degree. FK, Farah.
Depends on if you meet
No.
the right guy. Right?
Ifat said no. Ifat says no. She doesn't want to get married soon, I think. How about Farah? Do you?
I think no.
No, really?
In my opinion, I will marry when I want.
Oh, whenever
Exactly.
you want.
Immediately. Yeah, not immediately. If I want and I already to prepare my mental, physique, and others. So I will, yes, I will marry.
And
And of course, after graduate from college and get a good jobs that I want.
there are
That's right.
too many criteria of FK. But it's okay, okay. And
Yes,
also, and
this
of
is my
course,
dream.
after you find someone what?
Yeah,
Someone.
of course. If I'm not find someone that will be my husband, I can marry, ma'am.
Have to have both. You
But
have
I
to be
think
ready for marriage and you have to find the right guy
yeah, you
for
have
it to
to find the
happen.
right guy. But I think you have found one.
Boyfriend,
But I think Farah Habibah have found one. You have found one, right? Someone.
I'm not completely sure
Someone.
and I can't
Okay.
answer it.
Oh my God, you will maybe many.
Okay. Okay, right. Okay. Another thing to say for Laurel? Laurel, I think no. Okay. Okay, guys, turn on your camera so we can take some picture with Laurel. Okay. Levi, can you help me? Like
Yes,
usual.
ma'am.
Okay. Turn on your camera, guys, and smile. Okay. So as your beautiful faces and handsome face.
All right. Okay, ready? Right. Done, ma'am. Done.
Okay, then thank you, Levi, for
Thank you.
your
Thank you.
thank you, Levi, for your help, and thank you, L'Oreal, for your time today. It's we really had a very great time, yeah, with L'Oreal here. Very informative, very informative about this explanation.
Can I put
Very
my
informative.
website in the
Yeah.
chat?
Yeah, in the chat. Yeah, okay. The website for the students here.
So there's
Okay,
my
so-
website. If you guys want to go there, you can connect with me on social media. I have a YouTube channel. I have Facebook, which I don't do much, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I also have a WhatsApp group. So you can connect to all of that from there. And I have free courses as well. So you can go there.
Okay. Also, you have your own WhatsApp group, Laurel?
Yes, I have my own
Yeah,
WhatsApp group. It's called Laurel's Learning Lab. So
because I think we belong to the same WhatsApp group, but it's not created by you. But so you created your own WhatsApp group.
which group are we in together?
I think English speakers. I don't know. Created by a Pakistan Abbasi. I think I can't remember her name. His name. Sorry, I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, you know you and I talk more than we are in a group together. So that's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But yes, you're welcome to.
I'm not quite active in that group because there are so many people, so I'm getting confused.
Yeah, I tend to not be in a group with it. Like I come back and there's like 300 messages. I'm like, I can't do that. So my group is easier to handle.
I just don't go to group and then inactive just not quite active. Okay.
So if anybody wants to join my group, you're welcome to. You just tell me who you are and what country you're from, and then I'll say, oh, hi, you're from Happy's group. Is that your name here, Happy?
Yes, it's my.
She calls herself Happy and Peppy. So I'm like, either way, she's happy and peppy. So if you join, because you just say I'm from this group, and then I will accept you. Okay.
Everyone, sorry, guys, if you want to, to join Laurel's group, Laurel's WhatsApp group, you can tell me first, and then I will forward it to Laurel that some of you want to join her group.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do either one.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you once again for.
You're welcome. Have a good day, guys.
Have a
good night.
Thank you.
Right.
Have
See you next time.
Okay.
All
See you next time. See you next time.
Bye.
Hopefully we still have another time to.
See you next
This
time.
week is Ken Clay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.